You found a place to belong here in the Circle of Friends. I'm Missy, and I'm with Beth, and I'm with Dan. Dan, welcome back.
It's good to be back.
It's great to have you.
It is wonderful to have you here. And Dan, your week changed up a little bit. I think this might be our last day at the table with you, so we have a whole lot to pour into this. But listener, again, this young man, he's worth taking a listen to, and I wish. Truly, no, I'm glad we're radio and you can't just see here because these two white-haired ladies sitting here with this handsome young black man, we make a diverse crew, but he's way more handsome than so.
Yeah, go out on his website and see. Yes,
go out on his website and truly, if you are in a setting where you're saying, yeah, I know there are some people who are looking to me to lead, and I just don't know what to do. Dan has prompts, videos on his website that will help you work through conflict, that will help you get to that place of okay, so how do I do this? I know this needs to be done. It also, if you're sitting there thinking, yeah, that's good for him, good for you guys, I'm not a leader. Yes, you are. You are leading somebody. And Dan's book, Authentic Leadership, is going to help us all understand who we are and how God's designed us to be the leader, to call out the leader in us. Dan, I know in your book you talk about your mom. Now, you can tell her story, but I'm going to guess at birth, her parents never thought, oh, here's a future leader.
That's true.
And yet that's exactly who she was.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your mom and about that chapter of your book, Authentic Leadership.
Yeah, that's a big part of the book. Isn't it funny how we sometimes just don't know the stories of our parents?
Right.
And we have to sit down and actually legitimately ask them, so what was it like in this season of your life? And, they don't tell us unless we just straight up ask. And so I did that, and I learned so much about my mom. So just for some context, my mom and dad were both deaf, meaning they couldn't hear. I'm fluent in American Sign Language. Obviously I can hear. My sister and brother, they both can hear. The remarkable thing about my mom and dad is they both were college professors. My mom was a professor at Kent State University and Akron University, and currently at the University of Louisville. My dad, before he passed away, was a professor at the University of Akron and then Kent State as well. And so for them to be able to teach at the level that they were teaching and lead at the level they were leading, I never thought to ask, hey, how did you guys do that?
Right,
how did you get there?
They're just mom and dad.
Yeah, they're just mom and dad, and there's all kinds of, different stuff about growing up with two deaf parents, and things that we experienced that other kids didn't experience, and that's a whole nother book. That's a whole nother story. And there's some practical things that people oftentimes don't know about what it looks like to teach a classroom full of hearing 20-somethings, 30-somethings, and yet still communicate in a compelling way that they can get a good grade and learn and walk away.
Right.
Things like that. And I talk about that a little bit in the book too. But here's the crazy thing. Focusing on my mom, they both weren't just deaf, but they were both Nigerian immigrants, meaning they came to the States when they were in their mid-20s, didn't know a soul, couldn't speak the language, couldn't speak at all, couldn't hear anything, and somehow figured out how to raise a family, get a job, grow in an organization, start a department at the University of Akron and Kent State. Those things, they just happened while I was growing up, and I never thought to ask how. So when I did, I thought, okay, this has got to be a chapter of the book.
Wow. So, spoiler alert here?
Can
you give us more here, Dan?
Sure. Yeah. So the quick version is that my mom was deaf, and when she was born, her mom and dad both kind of wrote her off. Her brothers and sisters, she had 8 other brothers and sisters in Nigeria and Lagos. They also kind of wrote her off. And the way that, I know that is because nobody bothered to learn sign language. And so she couldn't communicate with anybody in her family.
Wow.
They didn't know at all. And so when she entered high school, it was a real struggle. She failed her freshman year. Then she failed her sophomore year, had to take that again. Failed her junior year, had to take that again. And finally, at the very end of her junior year, she had been in school longer than anyone else. When she came to the end of her junior year, the administrators of the school came to her and said, hey, look, we get how difficult this is for you. why don't you just take their certificate and go? Just skip your senior year. Which, as an educator, that's the opposite of what you're supposed to do.
Wow.
As a former educator, I think to myself, you give a student extra help. You believe in them more than anyone. You say, you can do this. We're going to help you. Let's get past that. They're like, look, you're probably not going to do much with this education anyway, so why don't you just cut your losses and go, live with your mom and dad. So she kind of figured that's really where her life was headed. No one at that point had believed in her until she met a man named Andrew Foster. That guy, absolutely remarkable. He was a doctor from the United States, felt called by God to lead deaf teens and young adults in Africa, and so basically flew over to Africa and started these deaf schools all over the continent, and ran into my mom as he was starting kind of a youth ministry there, and looked her in the eye, and she told me this. She said it was the first time anyone ever told her this. He looked her in the eye and he said, "Do you realize how smart you are? Like, do you know what you could do?" No one had ever told her that. But she had the spark. She was, she could communicate and she could help people, and she was, gregarious and loved connecting with people when they could understand her. And even when they couldn't, she just really loved to help people. And he said, "That is unique. You are different." And she said that something in her just snapped. And she realized that she was made for more. And so there's a whole series of things that happens in her life. But she said that was the turning point. And so for me, when I look back on my mom's life, I've got an incredible life right now. I'm able to travel the world and speak. I've got a wife and kids and a house and all the stuff that you'd think, but none of it would be possible if my mom and dad hadn't taken the risk and said, "You know what? I think God's made me for more than just living where I'm living, in the continent that I'm living, in the situation that I'm in." And so they became that person that changed the trajectory of our entire family. And here I am now because my mom, and my dad had that opportunity to kind of follow God's call.
What a story. I can't wait to have the book in my hands. But I hear so many things going on in that. First of all, a man moved according to what he felt God calling him to do. Dr. Foster went to speak into the hearts and lives of teenagers who couldn't hear, of deaf teenagers. And he called out the leader in your mom. But she still had a choice. Fear and insecurity could have kept her right where she was at.
Exactly right.
But instead, she moved forward. I don't even want to think about where we'd be today if she would have chosen to stay stuck.
Right.
To say, "Oh, no.
Not me.
Not
I can't.
me, somebody else."
Right.
We are here today with Dan Owolabi because his mom was willing to go through the hard places.
Right.
Again, you said they moved here in their 20s, not knowing the language, deaf, not being able to communicate, and yet both ended up being college professors.
Right.
Pretty awesome. So may I ask, I'm intrigued, what were the courses that they spoke or that they taught?
Yeah, so they both taught sign language at Kent State and Akron, which meant that they were uniquely positioned to, they both spoke it fluently, and they both had a lot of practice communicating with hearing people in a way that hearing people would be able to understand. And so they used that to, and they obviously had gotten master's degrees and that kind of stuff, and so they were qualified, but, they used that as a skill to be able to turn around and help other people learn sign language. And I think people, their classes filled up because the anomaly of being able to learn sign language from a deaf person is big. But the other side, I think, my mom especially is a character. When you walk in the room, she makes you feel like you're the most important person. She can make you laugh. She uses like hand signals, and she, can write on the board, and she can tell funny stories that, even though you can't hear what she's saying, you can see it and you get it. It's an interesting thing to watch.
So she took the very thing that the world would have said made her unable.
Right.
And she used it as a launch pad. And again, here we are today with her son because she was willing to take that step. This is such a message, I believe, for all moms and dads out there who are maybe stuck in a place of insecurity. You talked on our very first day together about being that authentic leader with nothing to hide, nothing to prove, and nothing to lose. But it takes going back and seeing those places where there is a stumbling block. There is something that maybe you would like to hide or that you feel like you have to prove or that you might lose if whatever. You have to recognize those things in yourself, but still have the courage to move forward in the face of those things.
That's right.
What's that beautiful quote about courage isn't the absence of fear?
Yeah, that's right. It's the presence of action.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Your mom took those steps to action. And now not only is she influencing her own children, but I have a feeling there's a couple of little granddaughters that are watching their grandma and saying, yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Grandma did, and I can.
Yeah. That's something that's so, I'm glad you said that. That's something that's so important for us to understand. I think sometimes when God calls us to do things and we feel it, we shrink back because we think, I don't want to embarrass myself, or I don't want to do this, I don't know how. But we forget that God has this infinite perspective, and he says, I don't want you to do this just for you. I'm thinking about your great-grandkids. You have to make this move, because for them to do this, they're going to need an example in you. And so if you'll blaze the trail for them, then they'll have an easier way. And then they're the ones that are going to do the extraordinary thing. I think sometimes we forget that. And for my mom, I am just so thankful that she jumped on a plane and flew to a country that she didn't know anybody in, and she just made it work. I am so thankful for that. And so when I think about, this is just me,
Right.
when I think about America, I think, like, I can feel the opportunity. Like, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the fact that she had a chance to make things happen here. It's amazing.
And
You
what
are-
a legacy.
Yeah.
Not only for you and your brother and sister, but for the, as you said, grandkids, great-grandkids to look back and know that. That is huge.
You are evidence of the opportunity.
That's what it feels like. It feels
Yeah.
like God's really used it.
Yeah, he certainly has. And to all of us, as we think about those people in our past who took those steps to move forward in the face of adversity, you know, in those scary places where it would have been maybe easier to get stuck. Let's look back. Let's take that look back, that rear view mirror glance, and recognize there were people there who took that step and lived by example, showed by example that you can continue to move forward. And maybe this week is the week that you need to write that note and say, thank you. Thank you for showing me what it looked like to continue to move forward, even in the face of fear. You led. You are an authentic leader because you chose to move forward when it would have been easier to run away. Again, Dan Owolabi here at the table with us this week. His book, Authentic Leadership, is available on Amazon, or call your favorite bookstore and request a copy there. But you will not regret taking the time to sit and read and glean, and then stand up and move in this beautiful model of authentic leadership. Now, I have one more question for you, Dan. Is there going to be an Audible book?
Yeah, there is.
All
There is.
right.
I'm looking forward to it. I love Audible. and
Yes.
So, yeah, I think we're going to have one.
Are you going to be your own voice, or
I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be weird reading your own book, right? I mean, reading it out loud, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
But there is something about the authenticity that comes from hearing the author's words. So, you know, maybe when you're on book 50, you won't be able to do all your own books. But for this first one, I'm voting that you do, because I could sit and listen to you all day.
Well, when you write a book called Authentic Leadership, you almost have to read it yourself, right?
That
You can't
is
have
true.
somebody else doing it for you.
So much truth in all of that. Again, we're here with Dan Owolabi. He has a website that you should, I'm telling you, you need to take the time to go to owolabileadership.com. Just look up all that he has there. You can Google him. But that book, Authentic Leadership, get it in your hands and then share it. Call out the leaders in your circle of influence. What a beautiful gift for a graduate, for a grandchild. I mean, I'm thinking this book needs to be on a big old bestseller list. So, Authentic Leadership. We will be back after a quick break and a listen to this. You have found a place to belong here in the Circle of Friends.
In the heart of Amish country, you will find 3 wonderful, unique stores: the Village Gift Barn, Country Gatherings, and Moxie. Village Gift Barn is filled with beautiful home decor, a boutique with stylish clothing and jewelry. Country Gatherings takes a step back in time with primitive decor and a garden center. Don't forget to visit Moxie, our big city boutique with small town charm, located in the heart of Amish country, Village Gift Barn, Country Gatherings, and Moxie.
You found a place to belong here in this circle of friends. I'm Beth, and it's been a wonderful week sitting here at the table with Missy and our good friend Dan Owolabi. Dan, again, thanks so much for joining us here. Your book, Authentic Leadership. It's going to be a great one.
I'm excited.
Oh, yeah. We all need to have it in our hands and then give it as gifts. Get lots of copies so you can pass it along to the people that you love and the people that you can call out that those leadership qualities and remembering, you referenced Judges, I think, either Monday or Tuesday, remembering that a whole lot of leaders didn't see themselves as leaders, but God saw them as leaders. Mm-hmm. Others saw them as leaders and called out that leadership potential in them. Yeah. So what do you look for? The spark as you look for that next generation leader. What should we keep our eyes open for, Dan?
That's a great question. You know, for me, when I look for another leader, I look for authentic confidence. I look for people who aren't leading with pretense. They don't feel like they have to impress anybody, but they're still confident in who they are, and they're determined to get stuff done. Like, those are the type of people that I think, okay, like that can become something. That's that spark that I look for. And so when I think about authentic leadership, for me, a big component of that is that authentic confidence. You know, you're confident in who you are in Christ, and so you can look anybody in the eye, whether they make a ton more than you, or they're more educated than you, or they're a different race than you, or whatever, and you can stand on your own 2 feet and you can say, hey, I think I can help you. I think I can serve you. Like, that kind of confidence is like, okay, I think I want you on my team.
Excellent. You know, I think I saw a Henry Cloud quote recently that talked about a level of maturity. You're able to see it in that person that is self-motivated. They don't need someone else telling them what to do. And that's the confidence I am hearing you speak of there. That inner confidence that says, okay, this is where I'm at. This is where I want to get to. These are the people I can serve along the way, and then taking the steps to go and do.
Go do it. Yeah.
Go do it.
That's
Just
right.
do it. That would be a great line for like
Somebody,
an
some
advertising.
company should use that.
Yeah,
that's
somewhere. You know, another person that you referenced, I believe it was yesterday, was Charles Barkley, NBA player, and he said, "I'm not a role model," right? I would love to go back and revisit that statement with him today, if he recognizes the platform that he'd been given to be that role model. But each of us have a platform of sorts.
Right. And I think the most courageous leaders are the ones that are able to step into the limelight and say, I didn't ask for this. This is not something I'm seeking, but I've been given it. And so now it's my job to steward it and maximize it. I think oftentimes the most dangerous leaders are the ones in our lives who don't recognize the influence that they have. And they say reckless things and they do reckless things because they don't realize that it's going to hurt other people, because they haven't owned the fact that they have real influence in people's lives. When you own that, suddenly your own behavior changes, because you're like, this isn't just about me anymore. And now you stand up a little straighter, you pay attention to what you say when other people are in the room. All those things really do matter.
There's also a danger in leadership that is just grasping for titles and wants to be on the highest podium, isn't there now?
That's the other end of that, yeah. Because then you're not really about serving and influencing. You're about filling some sort of insecurity hole inside yourself. And that is dangerous too. Because only God can fill that. But you're filling it with some sort of, title, like you said.
So truly, it does come back to your very first steps in all of this. First, you better understand yourself. Why do I or do I not want this title of leadership? And then I better lead myself to this place that if God's calling it out in us, I better be willing to move.
Right.
But it's all in taking care of that core strength right here, so that we can stand tall, stand firm, and lead others into that place of leadership that they've been called to. Because this isn't just about Dan Owolabi reaching the top.
Nope.
It's about bringing a whole lot of people with you, isn't it?
Yeah. One term I learned when I was pastoring for a decade was the term the divine center. And the idea that if you take care of your relationship with Christ and who you are on the inside. And every night you go to bed and you realize, you know what, I'm nothing more than a son of God. I'm nothing more than a daughter of God. That's really what it comes down to. All the trappings, all the mistakes, all the successes, still a child of God. If you develop that divine center, then you can walk into any room with ridiculous confidence that people don't understand, because you're not depending on the things of the world.
Yeah.
You are who you are, and you can look someone else in the eye and like, I'm a child of God, and so are you.
And so are
you can
you.
talk to them at the same level. That kind of confidence really changes things.
I think it's Lisa TerKeurst who had a Bible study who talks about, or in one of her Bible studies talks about carrying the fullness of God with you wherever you go.
Yeah.
That's it. That's taking that into whatever place, wherever you're at, and just knowing that I don't have to be perfect because God is perfect. I carry him with me, so all I have to do is be me. Be who he has called Missy to be, Dan to be, Beth to be. Listener, who's he called you to be in your circle of influence? We are leading. We are here today to call out the leader in you, but again, it's because of what God says about you, not because of what any of us say about you. As followers of Christ, we are leading, aren't we?
Right.
When we claim Christ as Lord and Savior, we are following him. But there's a whole lot of followers, and there's a whole lot who need to follow us to the foot of that cross.
It reminds me of what Paul says when he said, follow me as I follow Christ. I mean, that's a bold statement said in humility. I mean, he's just stating a reality. He's like, I'm following Christ, and I'm doing the very best I can, and I want you to follow me. Recognizing that if he stumbles, he's going to cause other people to stumble. But he's not denying the reality that people need to follow him in order to follow Christ, right? Follow his example.
Not because of who I am, but because of who he is.
Exactly
I
right.
think that's a beautiful. I know it's a song, and if I think hard enough, I can think of who wrote it, who sang it. But it's not us. It's Christ in me. Dan, you have a few more minutes to tell us everything you wanted to tell us that we didn't get to cover this week.
Yeah. So I think one thing that I'm really excited about with this book is the idea of battling insecurity. And I think one misconception that people have of leaders, especially leaders who have led for a long time at a high level, is that they never feel insecurity. That at some point it's just going to go away and you're going to feel confident in every room you walk into. And that's not the case. One of the first examples that I give in the book is the story of when I ran my very first half marathon. And, surprise, surprise, I was overconfident and I thought I was going to do really, really well. And it turned out to be very painful, and it's kind of a funny story. But ultimately what I learned from that experience was that tired is a feeling that every runner feels. Doesn't matter if you're running the Boston Marathon or you're running in your backyard. If you're a runner, you're going to feel tired. It's just part of the game, And so the very best runners are the ones that prepare for that tired. They know exactly in the race when that tired is going to hit. And so they prepare. They've got juice, they've got drinks, they've got people who are helping them. They've trained for that moment. Insecurity is the same way. When you're leading, there are going to be moments when the insecurity feels overwhelming. But if you've prepared for that and you've got your divine center ready, okay, this is a moment that I feel insecure. Fine. It's part of leadership. I'm not a bad leader because of it. I'm not, just generally a bad person because of it. But I have a go-to. I know what I can do. And this book really helps people, A, identify the fact that everybody feels insecurity, and B, gives you very specific tools on how to deal with it and become authentic in moments like that.
Again, this book, Authentic Leadership, available at Amazon or through your favorite local bookseller. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and give them a call. If their doors are open, go in, order that book if it's not on their shelf, because it should be on their shelf. Again, Dan, you have responded to the call of leadership that God placed on your life. You've had great role models to follow, and maybe some role models that, what's the saying? You're always an example, a good example or a bad example. Maybe you've had some role models that were good examples of a bad example.
Haven't we all, right?
Yeah.
But you have taken all of that and you have followed another call on your life, and that's when God said, here's a book in you, and I want you to invest the time to put the thoughts and the ideas that are up here in your mind on on computer, on paper, whatever it is, you followed, you were intentional, you were obedient. And really, that's the authentic leader in all of us. When we listen to the one who's calling us, when we, don't avoid and ignore, but pay attention. And then when we take those steps to move in the direction that God is calling us to,
Right.
You've given us a book that will remind us that all leaders battle insecurity. Even Moses.
Yeah. He's a great example of that.
I know. And Gideon, you referenced Gideon. Samson didn't. He didn't battle insecurity. And we can learn from him too. So the Bible is full of leadership models. Dan, I'm thankful that you are full of the Word of God and that you have taken the words that He has inspired you with and put them in this book called Authentic Leadership. Can you tell our listeners, again, I've been pointing them towards owolabileadership.com. How else can they come in contact with you? Or there's podcasts somewhere on another website?
Yeah, so if you follow our Facebook page, you'll find videos on a weekly basis. If you go on to owolabileadership.com, you can sign up for book updates. And so, if you haven't yet gotten the book, you can sign up to get those. Also, when you sign up, you'll get an email on a weekly basis that basically puts a leadership video right there in your inbox. So you can watch it. They're usually about 5 minutes long and try to be as helpful as we can. You can also find us on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn. So pretty much any social network except for like Pinterest and Snapchat.
Okay. And what's the other one? TikTok. Are you TikToking?
Not TikTok yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure at some point I will, but yeah.
And Branches Worldwide. Tell us a little more about Branches.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm super proud of what our team has done with Branches. That's really where I spend a lot of my time. And, ultimately, Branches Worldwide is about developing a new way to do missions. What we do is we work with business leaders in local communities that are natural influencers. Mm-hmm. We help them use their business as a mission. We help amplify their message. And so ultimately they're able to resource the church with funds. They're able to hire more people and create economic sustainability, all in the name of Jesus. It's a great way to impact a community through working with local business leaders. Mm-hmm. It's been a lot of fun. And, we work with business leaders between the ages of 25 and 40 because we pledged to work with them for 40 years. Back up, for 30 years.
Okay.
So that's a big piece for us.
Pledging to work with leaders for 30 years. What a call on your life. Friends, it's been a great day, a great week of sitting here at the table and talking with Dan all about leadership. And now that leader in each and every one of us that God is calling out in us. Let's move forward. Take those steps to lead those that He's given us influence over, not for us, but for His glory. Dan Owolabi, again, thank you for spending your time here with us at the table. You found a place to belong here in this circle of friends. This program was brought to you through the generous support of donors and listeners like you. To contact Circle of Friends Ministries, you can write to P.O. Box 345, Berlin, Ohio, 44610, or find us on Facebook at circleoffriends.fm. Program archives can be found at thelight959.com.